They're very beautiful, whether we like it or not. Bright little bits of sunshine just springing out of the earth and so eager to propagate themselves. And I'm noticing that they are everywhere. And I am quite delighted by them. And I know that after a while I'll become a bit tired of them, but that's pretty normal. First thing I want to say is just noticing our reading, and scripture reading, and the song we sang out of the heart of the Father above, and I also read about the man, the man, the man. And it's interesting that on Mother's Day, where we have at the center of attention the feminine spirit, our language still presses us to consider manhood to be the ideal. And I would like to suggest to you that presents us with a problem. The idea that the human being that God created, which was male and female, that is to say, the image of God in human being is male and female, and through the most of our Western history, the female has been eclipsed by the male. And that's important. That explains so much of what's not right with the world. Because when we sing about out of the heart of the Father above, we notice that in the name of that Father, every kind of iniquity has been perpetrated against the people of the earth. And so I might suggest that as we go forward, we think a little bit about our mother on earth as an image of the one who loves us in heaven. And that is to say, the one who nurtures us when we are in our formative stage, the one who shapes and forms us in the secret places of the womb. That one is not masculine. That one is masculine and feminine in a harmonious relationship. All you have to do is think of the challenge of being in an intimate partnership with another person for life. This is a growing opportunity. This spirit and this spirit meeting each other with all the differences that they represent coming together and causing all kinds of opportunity for growth. Now that growth will very often come out of difference of opinion, which may sometimes lead to conflict. Sometimes even going beyond conflict, leading to a parting of the ways and a recognition that there are irreconcilable differences. The emphasis I would like to put this morning is not so much on Mother's Day as a hallmark occasion, a one moment when we pause to buy flowers, to buy chocolate, to buy diamonds, to buy fur coats, to buy a new car, because we love Mom so much. That's not what I have in mind on Mother's Day. On Mother's Day, I have in mind that spirit which knows that care expressed as love, or love expressed as care, is the most important part of our spiritual human being. It doesn't have much to do with our biologic identity. It has a part to play. But the practice of love as care is the heart and soul of spiritual being. Now we have two texts in front of us today, and as a person who is going to be walking out of my accustomed relationship with the church and into a new relationship, the first thing I'd like to say is how delightful it was this morning to have a variety of voices in our service. And I trust and I hope and I pray that as the future unfolds for you as a community of faith, you will welcome and appreciate and support and encourage those persons who step forward to share with you their experience of life as an expression of the practice of care. Caroline cares for us, and so she leads us in the opening of our service. She includes the children, Colton and Jack. Allison cares for us, so she reads the text. Each one of you who comes forward to serve, the singers, Alex playing the piano, has a gift to bring. But that gift ought not to be admired as the gift. The gift ought to be admired as the envelope in which the card of care is delivered. We live in a world where we worship people who are good at stuff. We especially worship people who are very good at stuff. But what we don't do very well at is recognizing that everything depends not on a few people in visible positions of leadership, but everything depends on the whole host of people dedicated to the practice of care. Now, the text in Corinthians speaks about a body. And the first thing I'd like to emphasize is that when I speak about the future of the church, I mean an organic future. I do not mean a circumstantial future, a future where we control things from the outside. That was the method of the patriarchy. That was the method of the kings who have ruled the earth. But it's not the method of a mom. A mom works more in and through all of her relationships. But the body that Paul speaks of is made up of many members, with each having something to offer. We may think of our bodies. There's the stomach. It does a job. There's the heart. It does a job. There's the brain. It does a job. There's the hands and the feet. All of these parts work together, and ideally they work together to express the practice of care. There's a rabbi told a story about the body having a conversation with itself one day about who was the most important member, and the first one to speak out was the brain. And the brain thought it was so superior to, say, the stomach or the intestine. Look at all the wonderful things it could do. But then the heart chimed in and said, no, I'm the most important. Because if I stop doing what I'm doing, everything stops. And the lungs had their thing to say. And each part had its thing to say. And the only one being quiet was the bowel. And finally the bowel got tired of all these high-minded organs fighting about who was the most important member of the body. And the bowel thought to itself, that's it, I'm going to quit for a while. Have any of you ever been constipated? How important is your brain when you're constipated? How important is your heart? What's got your attention? So there's no part of our body that is more or less important than any other. And in the same way, when we gather together in this room as a people of faith, we ought to be perfectly clear that no part that is played is more important than any other part. Just for fun, in various locations, I've said to congregations, who's the most important person in the church? And almost invariably, up until about a decade ago, the answer was the minister. And then I would say, okay, now, imagine the flush downstairs. It's got jammed up. It's overflowing. Water's running everywhere. Who's the most important person in the church? The one who knows where the plumber is. The plunger. The one who knows what to do with the plunger. So we have care committees. We have administration committees. We have property committees. We have M&P committees. And each of these committees is made out of a person working together to accomplish a purpose. And that purpose is not to satisfy the administrative structures of the church. That purpose is to satisfy our hunger and thirst for the practice of care. Now, what happens with organic bodies is they can become managed from the outside, so that they become servants to structures. I am hoping that we will no longer serve our structures, but that instead we will invite our structures to serve us. That we won't dispense of them, but we'll make use of them in the way a gardener uses a spade, or a painter uses a brush. We will make use of our administrative gifts. But our true future will be rooted in our desire to work together in the practice of care. That's what makes us a body, each of us and all of us dedicated to one purpose, and one purpose alone. And that purpose is not care for me. That purpose is growing as me, learning as me, praying as me, for us. And every one of us in the modern world now has opportunity to shift our focus away from self-centered, self-satisfying desires and commitments and turning towards the desire for a new world order, a new way of being, a way that realizes that the practice of care is the fullest and finest expression of human being. When human being practices care with a whole heart, a whole mind, a whole strength, and a whole soul, the planet will be changed. Wow, I'm getting kind of wound up there. I just needed you to stop and laugh for a second. The body, the organic body, the flesh and blood, the body related by kindness, tenderness, gentleness, patience, encouragement, support. The body related in the Spirit is the body of Christ. That's where God can be seen. It says in one place, even if you take a cup of cold water and give it to somebody who's really thirsty on a hot, dry day, it's as if you did it to me. The smallest act of human kindness is an act of devotion to God. And the prophets again and again say, you can go to church all you want. You can sing all the songs you want. You can exposit all the biblical texts you want. You can preach. You can teach. But if you don't have love, it's pointless. It's useless. And what's our world hungry for now? I have been in my prayer life constantly focused on all of the mothers on the earth just now. All of the children dying of starvation. All of the children dying of loneliness. All of the families broken by the wars of imperial majesty and the greed for gain. You see, there's something dreadfully wrong, and there's an answer to what's wrong. There's a medicine for what's wrong, and that medicine is inside of you. The presence of the living God as love in human form. Each of us has energy. Each of us has talent. Each of us has resources. And all of that is being sucked up by the system of the world and leaving people alone, frustrated, anxious, and in despair. It's time to change that. Now, the key to the change is shown to us in the person Jesus. Now, in Jesus' day, the most important thing of all was to be the Father's Son. And I'm going to suggest to you that the gospel is written in such a way that between the lines, where the formal language about God as Father is still present, we find another spirit. And that is revealed when Jesus makes his little speech just before he's going to face all the powerful people of the planet who are going to kill him. And Jesus makes a little speech and he says, you know what it's like in the world where you live. You know what people are ambitious for. You know what they're hungry for. They want power. They want privilege. They want prestige. They want pride. Jesus says, I have nothing to do with any of that. And if Jesus is in you, then I hope you hear his voice saying to you, I am not interested in power. I don't believe power is the way to a secure, safe future. I believe love. So Jesus says to them, I'm not with you like those high-placed persons. I'm with you in exactly the same way as your mom is with you. I'm with you in exactly the same way that your auntie is with you, and your sister, and your grandma. Because when Jesus said, I am among you as one who serves, and he used the image of a table, he was making it plain. Because in those days, and up until very recently, it was almost universal in the Western world. Women cooked, cleaned, did all the stuff to make the house nice for the husband and the kids. Women were the ones who served at table. And when Jesus says, I am among you as one who serves, he inverts the whole patriarchy. And he makes a whole new possibility present. And that possibility inspires a people, and that people becomes a body, and that body tells a story to history. And that story has been told all over the earth. Here a little bit, and there a little bit, and there a little bit. And now, at this critical moment of our shared human history, we have opportunity to ask ourselves, what's the most important thing for me to get done? And I will suggest it's only one thing. Learn to care for yourself. Learn how to be a healthy, happy person. Do what it takes. Disengage from the things that suck energy out of you. Disengage from the things that frustrate you. Disengage from the things that disappoint you and leaving you feeling lost and lonely. Leave those things and start picking up those things that make you feel satisfied about who you are. And that is so simple. It's like going into an old folks' home, as Pearl does occasionally, and doing a laughter workshop. It's going into your neighbor's yard who's an elderly widow and taking your lawnmower and mowing the grass for her. It's helping your neighbor. It's helping the stranger. It's having a deep, deep determination to care for others, to let your love shine so that everyone can see it and give thanks to God. You as a congregation are at a remarkable crossroads, as are many congregations of many traditions in the land. The choice now is, are we going to keep thinking about church the way we have for the last several hundred years? Or are we going to start thinking about church in a new way? And I'm hoping that you will decide to start thinking about church in a new way. That you will start thinking of being a team dedicating all of its available resources to accomplishing the practice of care. And I'd like to say that you have a good chance of success because already you have been practicing this in small ways and in large ways. But now I am hoping in this critical moment of our human history that you will dedicate yourself to the practice of care. That you will make it the most important part of your experience. And I assure you, you will not be disappointed. Because in the practice of care that we see in Jesus and many others beside, in the practice of care, we realize and embrace our true humanity. And everything else is a path leading us away from that true humanity. Friends, the future is looking brighter and brighter, and that's because you, like dandelions, will not give up. You will grow, and you will propagate, and the wind will be your helper.